The fool who defeated the genius. Nobody respected the fool. Children laughed at him. Shopkeepers chased him away. Travelers mocked him, but the fool never got angry. He simply smiled and kept walking. The villagers thought he was stupid. They thought he knew nothing. But nobody knew the truth. One day, this fool would defeat the smartest man in the kingdom. The man was known everywhere. He had defeated scholars. He had embarrassed judges. He had challenged kings. And he had never lost. People called him the genius. In the kingdom of Arundel lived a famous teacher. For 40 years, he had answered every question. People traveled great distances to hear his wisdom. No challenger had ever defeated him. One autumn evening, rumors spread across the kingdom. The genius is coming. The genius is coming. Fear filled the streets. Everyone knew his reputation. When the genius entered the city, everything became quiet. He was tall, thin, dressed in black. His eyes were cold. His face showed no emotion. The great teacher welcomed him. The genius sat down across from him. A crowd quickly gathered. Even the fool was there, sitting quietly at the back. The genius raised one finger. "Tell me something that you have, but God does not." The crowd gasped. The teacher thought carefully, then answered, "I have parents. God has none." The genius nodded. "Correct." The genius raised another finger. "Tell me something you can do, but God cannot." Again the teacher thought, then replied, "I can be unaware of something, but God knows everything." The genius nodded again. Another correct answer. The crowd relaxed. Maybe their teacher would win. Then the genius smiled. For the first time, a dangerous smile. Near the square, a fire was burning. The genius picked up a glowing piece of hot metal. Then he dropped it into a barrel of water. Tis ss. Steam exploded into the air. The genius turned toward the teacher. Who made that sound? The metal or the water? The teacher stared at the barrel, but he did not answer. 1 minute passed, then another. The teacher kept thinking. The crowd became nervous. Nobody had ever seen him struggle before. Suddenly, someone laughed. The crowd turned around. It was the fool. People rolled their eyes. Of course, the fool. The genius looked annoyed. "You find this funny?" "A little," said the fool. "Do you know the answer?" "No." The crowd laughed. "Then sit down," said the genius. But the fool remained standing. "I don't know the answer." He paused. "Because it is a stupid question." The entire crowd fell silent. The fool walked slowly toward the genius. The crowd moved aside. The genius watched carefully. The fool stopped directly in front of him. Without warning, slap! The sound echoed through the square. The genius stumbled backward. Everyone froze. Nobody could believe it. The genius held his burning cheek. "Are you insane?" "Probably," said the fool. Then he pointed at him. "Now answer my question. Who made that sound? My hand or your face?" The genius opened his mouth, but no answer came. The fool smiled. "Exactly. The sound came from both." He pointed toward the barrel, just like the sound came from both the metal and the water. The crowd finally understood. The villagers understood. The teacher understood. And worst of all, the genius understood. For the first time in years, the genius had no reply. He picked up his bag, turned around, and walked away, without saying a single word. The crowd watched him leave. Then they looked at the fool, the man they had mocked, the man they had ignored. the man they had called stupid. The fool simply smiled and walked home. Years later, people still told the story, not about the genius, not about the teacher, but about the fool. Because wisdom does not always look important. Sometimes, it hides behind the person everyone laughs at. Most people watching this video will choose the wrong answer. Who was the smartest person in this story? The genius, the teacher, or the fool? Write your answer in the comments before reading anyone else's. I'm genuinely curious to see what most people choose. And if stories like this challenge the way you think, subscribe, because the next story might change your mind again. And if this lesson reminded you of someone, send them this video. Sometimes a good story teaches more than a long argument.